Hello students, I am coming back for taking the information of entrepreneurship development and the role of government in India. So in the previous video I will deliver the information about of entrepreneurship, evaluation, concept of entrepreneurship. But in this video I will deliver the information of history of entrepreneurship in India. So I think all of you aware with the information, aware with the concept of a history of entrepreneurship in India. But I think some of people's not known the information about of history of entrepreneurship in India. So I will provide the information for that particular topic. So the history of entrepreneurship is important worldwide, even in India. In the pre-colonial times, the Indian trade and business was at its peak. Indians were experts in smelting of metals such as brass and tin. Following that period, in around 1600 AD, India established its trade relationship with Roman Empire. Gold was pouring from all sides. Then came the Portuguese and the English. They captured the Indian sea waters and slowly entered the Indian business. They forced the entrepreneurs to become traders and they themselves took the role of entrepreneurs. This was the main reason for the downfall of Indian business in the colonial times, which had its impact in the post colonial times too. Entrepreneurship is the result of doing a work. So, the economic, psychological, and sociological academic fields accept that entrepreneurship is a process. Then after we have discussed about of economy of India before British Raj. I think all of you know the season of British Raj. So the Indian economy in the pre-British period consisted of isolated and self-sustaining villages on the one hand and towns, which were the seats of administration, commerce, and handicrafts on the other. Means of transport and communication were highly underdeveloped, and so the size of the market was very small. So, to understand pre British India, it is essential to study the structure of the village community, the characters of towns, the character of internal and foreign trade, the state of means of transport and communication. So the structure and organization of villages. So the village community was based on a simple division of labor. The farmers cultivated the soil and tended cattle. Similarly, there excited class of people called weavers, washermen, and so on. All these occupations were hereditary and passed by tradition from father to son. These craftsmen were paid a stipend out of crops at the harvest time, and live of service performed. So most of the food produced in the village was consumed by the village population. It's the raw material produced from primary industries were the feed for the handicrafts. So there are or there were three distinct classes in the village India. The first one is the agricultures, the second one is the artisans and menials, and the third one is the village officials. So I think the villages of India were isolated in a self-sufficient unit which formed an enduring organization. But this should not lead us to the conclusion that they were unaffected by wars or political upheavals. They did suffer the aggressions and were forced to submit to excitations. But the absence of means of transport and communication and a centralized government helped their survival. So this is the information which is provided by me for a villages informations. Because of whenever you try to get a history of entrepreneurship in India, you go through the villages. Because of the manpower and the most power of India is total depend on the villages. And another point comes in this particular topic is economic consequences of British conquest. So, India had been conquered before the British too, but the invaders settled in India. The differences of British conquest lies in the fact that it led to the emergence of a new political and economic system whose interests were rooted in a foreign soil and whose policies were guided slowly by those interests. So the British rule can be divided into two approaches. The first rule of the East India Company ranging from 1757 to 1858, and the second, the rule of British government in India from 1858 to 1947. The establishment of British rule itself was a slow and lengthy process, extending over more than 100 years. So, I think many years ago, the handicrafts and progressive ruralization of Indian economy is going to the declining. So this is a general history of entrepreneurship in India. So after some time means during the British Raj and after the British Raj means during the 19th century, a particular pioneer industrial enterprise is set up in India. By the help of this industry, the Britishers provide the experience to the Indian peoples, and Indian peoples get the information regarding our business and try to get a lot of working conditions. By using of these particular conditions, a lot of peoples gain profit, and the Indian economy is going to raise. So this is the information regarding uh, historical position of entrepreneurs in India. So then after we have discussed about of the next topic is nature of unemployment in India. So India is a developing economy. The nature of unemployment therefore sharply differs from the one that prevails in industrial advanced countries. This type of unemployment caused by economic fluctuations did arise in India during the depressions in 1930s, which caused untold misery. But With the growth of Keynesian remedies, it has been possible to mitigate cyclical unemployment. So then after we have discussed about of employment policy in the ninth plan. So then after we have discussed about of a lot of things, especially government rates of growth rates of employment in the next video. Thank you.